Learning how to fight was the best decision that I ever made. And by the end of this video, I promise you're gonna want to start too. So I want to take you guys on a little trip. Bear with me. So it's the start of the school year. I've just finished playing basketball for 2 years, obsessing over it, spending every waking second dedicating myself to it, trying to fulfill my dreams of going pro. And that went all down the drain. I didn't make the basketball team. I didn't make varsity, and I didn't even make junior varsity at the tryouts. And I was devastated. The last 2 years of my life had been spent chasing something that had yielded no return. I was lost, I was directionless, I really didn't know what to do. And to be honest, I felt like a fucking failure. This was a really dark point of my life. I was sad. I felt like I had wasted the last 2 years of my life. And basically I just joined the gym and started lifting to do something. Because I'd always been that skinny kid, and now that basketball wasn't an excuse to be skinny, I had nothing else to do. So I joined the gym and started lifting. Now that gym was a mixed martial arts gym also, so you can make an idea, it basically had the bottom layer weight section and the top layer was MMA, boxing, all that. And I'd never really gone upstairs. I'd always just stayed with my friends lifting downstairs. But one day we were bored and we decided to go up. And we saw that everybody was doing some form of fighting, and we decided to try it out. Little did I know that decision changed my life forever. Martial arts and I have sort of a love-hate relationship. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, and I love how far I've come with it, but I really hated it sometimes. I've hated how hard it is, how you see no progress sometimes. And there's been some days where I hated training, I hated losing, and I hated getting my ego torn from getting beat up all the time. But nevertheless, martial arts has taught me things that school, family, friends, teachers, even YouTube could have never taught me. And today I'm going to share some of those lessons with you. Lesson number 1. Courage isn't not being scared of things. It's fearing something, but doing it anyways. When I started training, I was trash. I mean, I could barely throw a punch. I would go like this. Then one day, this trainer asked me to spar. Now, sparring was a new concept for me. Basically, it's when you fight with someone, but a bit lighter. So none of you guys get hurt, but you can simulate a real life fight. Now, not knowing what I was getting myself into, I said yes. I don't know why I said yes. But as soon as the round starts, I start getting the living shit beaten out of me. And I'm new to martial arts. I don't know any moves. I don't know what grappling is. Anyways, this guy, he throws some jabs and crosses at me that I didn't see coming, just yanks my head back, and then goes for a takedown, which I didn't know what it was. And all I know is from one second to another, I'm going from getting my face punched in to spinning in the air and being fucking dropped on the floor. Needless to say, I was deathly scared of him. Anyways, I'm training a few weeks later, and he asked me to spar again. And I'm remembering how it went the first time. I'm having flashbacks about that left hook that took my chin away, about that takedown that popped all of the air out of my system. And I really want to say no, but something in me, something in Jorge, decides to say, yeah, sure, let's spar again. I don't know what made me say yes to sparring again with that guy, but I did. And so the round starts, and it goes the exact same way, except this time it's worse. He basically starts off punching me, and then gets me in this crucifix position. And if you don't know what the crucifix is, don't worry, I'll pop up a little image of what it's like. And so he gets me in the crucifix, he has me pinned down in that position. He takes his glove and starts pounding it into my liver. Now, obviously, this hurts. It's pretty painful. You know, it's not like tickles. And I'm going through it. I mean, he's like, escape. And I'm like, I can't. And he's like, try your best. And I'm thinking in my mind, I should just call it off. I should just give up. But something in my mind says, no, Jorge, you are not going to give up. Because this is pain, but pain is fine. What's not fine is being a pussy. And as he's pounding away at my liver, I'm thinking, why aren't you giving up? You should just give up. But I didn't. And then I remember thinking, The Jorge from a few months ago would have just called it off immediately. At the first punch. At the first punch you would have taken, you would have called it off. I've changed. I'm now more brave. I'm now more courageous. My mindset had changed. And more importantly, I had changed. And sure, you can say that the guy was a dickhead or a bully for sparring so hard with me, but I truly believe in the bottom of my heart that he was trying to teach me a lesson. That he was trying to see how mentally strong I was. And I think that he thought that I was just going to give up since I was a beginner and I wasn't going to come back. But every time he would come train some clients, guess who he would see there? Me. And he would see me and I'd be training, and granted I wasn't the best, but at least I was putting in the work. And he would even give me some advice because he saw that I was putting in the time and effort. He would acknowledge it and saying, "You're getting better." And he taught me something. He taught me that it's okay to feel fear. It's okay to be scared. Everybody is scared. Professional fighters are scared before going in the cage. What's not okay is to let fear change your decision. It's to let fear deter you away from a goal. Lesson number 2. You're gonna get hit. So a few months ago, every time I used to spar and someone would throw a punch at me, I would flinch. And I would flinch like bad. Like if you throw a punch at me, I'd be like, so I couldn't even see you. Now this was because obviously I was scared of getting hit. I thought that it would hurt me or that it would be very painful. And I had the idea of, I'm gonna try my best to not get hit because it's an instinct as a human to look away so it doesn't, hit your face. But eventually I just got hit so much that I got used to it and I stopped flinching as much. And I realized that no matter how hard I try, I'm gonna get hit anyways, because at the end of the day, it's fighting, and that's what it's about. The point was to hit the other person more. Moreover, I realized that the less I flinched, the more I hit someone, because when you flinch, you turn your head away. And when you turn your head away, you can't see where your opponent is. So gradually I stopped. And then I realized that I can take punches because I'm strong enough to take them. And this made my confidence go up. Not a lot, but just a bit. So I could spar a bit more without flinching, and we wouldn't have to stop the round every time someone would punch me. And this taught me another lesson about life. You're gonna get hit in life, but you can't flinch. Just because you want an easy life as a man doesn't mean you're gonna get one. You're gonna take a lot of fucking punches, and you have to learn how to take them. When you take a risk to go up and talk to that girl, she might say no, and that might hurt like a punch to the liver. When you take that risk to start that YouTube channel, people might make fun of you, and that might hurt like a punch too. When you take that risk to go to the boxing gym, you might literally get punched for trying. Nevertheless, you have to take that risk. And if life throws a punch at you, you have to be fine with it. You have to take it on the chin and stop flinching. Because the only thing that life assures you is that you're gonna get hit. There's no way to go through life and for nothing bad to happen to you. It's bound to happen. What you can do is to learn from those mistakes and take it on the chin and keep going. Because every time someone throws a punch at you, you learn how to slip, you learn how to roll with it, you learn how to counter. Every time life throws a punch at you, you learn how to get out of a bad situation. You learn how to come out stronger and you gain more resilience. So life is gonna throw a lot of punches at you, bro. But just learn to take them. You're gonna get hit. Lesson number 3. I learned how to lose. So I recently participated in my first ever tournament. It was a kickboxing tournament and I was super excited and nervous for it. But it was an amazing experience. I mean, the feeling of competing is unreal. It's like if you took some heroin, but without getting wrinkles and side effects. But it's almost like a high. The adrenaline rushes through your veins and you feel pumped up. It's just amazing. By the way, there's a video on my channel of my first ever fight. It's the full fight if you want to go watch it. It's somewhere down in the channel. Just go look at it. But anyways, the outcome was that I lost. I started off the first round really well. I went into the second round winning, and then the guy hit a really good kick, and I lost all confidence and just went downhill. And I lost. And sure, I could put all the excuses in the world and whine like a little bitch about why I lost and how the circumstances weren't ideal and how this should have happened, this shouldn't have happened. But the reality is that nothing is gonna change the fact that I lost. And probably somewhere on some webpage it says that Jorge Rodriguez is 0-1 in kickboxing. And yeah, sure, that hurts my ego because maybe it looks like I'm a bad fighter and maybe it looks like I suck. But it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna lose anyways. And while I could sit in my room and cry and bitch that I lost my first match and that I never want to compete again, I could also learn from my loss. And that's what I did. For the first week after I lost, I would watch my full fight back every time, every day, and I would see what I did wrong. And sure, it takes a hit at your ego seeing 10 times in 1 week how you lost, but it also gets you so much better because you don't learn from winning, you learn from losing. You learn when it hurts. So you're bound to take losses in life. It's impossible for you to win constantly. It's gonna happen, you're gonna lose, and you might lose big. And you have two options. You can stay down and never try again because you lost and you might lose again. Or you can get up knowing that you might lose again, but you're gonna get better and keep trying until you finally win. And I am choosing the second one. And I continue training to this day, harder than ever, with more discipline and motivation than ever, and I couldn't be happier. So take my advice. In fighting, like in life, you're gonna lose. You have to learn how to lose and learn from it. Because one day you'll be happy that you lost. You wouldn't be in the spot that you're gonna be at if you don't lose now. The fourth lesson that fighting has taught me is that hard work works. I've created and adopted this motto. I know it's original, mine. I know it sounds cool, but it all came from fighting. Unlike some other sports, fighting has a very, very slow learning curve. When you train, you barely see any progress day to day, and there's so many little techniques and little adjustments that you have to do that it's almost impossible to see in your whole fight style how you've improved. And then if you ever become inconsistent, and if you stop going almost every single day, then you'll lose all your cardio that you had in 2 weeks. And my fighters will know, if you take a 2-week break, you feel like a grandpa getting back in that ring. You'll lose the technique and you'll just feel rusty. So fighting is very strong on consistency. If you want to improve at all, you have to be extremely consistent. And as you stop being consistent, that all goes to shit. And so this naturally has caused me to feel like I haven't been improving many times, and to feel like I'm doing all this for nothing, and to feel like everybody's getting better but me, and it's not working for me. And there's been many a time where I felt like a terrible fighter, and this is super demotivating. But one day, you realize how far you've come. Maybe it's that you watch a video from how you used to fight or how you used to hit the bag, or you spar that guy that used to beat you very badly, and now you kind of get some shots off on him, and you realize that all that hard work that you put in is finally paying out, and that just gives you the little motivation to keep going, because hard work actually works. Delayed gratification is a topic we hear a bunch about in the self-improvement space and everything. You probably heard it from Hamza, from Mangazi, a bunch of people. But in fighting, it's more obvious to me than any area of life. Because getting punched in the face constantly and not seeing any improvements for like months at a time really sucks. That's the embodiment of delayed gratification. And where the gratification comes in is when you finally get to punch back one day. You finally, get that upper hand on your opponent. And you finally realize that hard work made a difference. So, hard work works. To my Instagram bio, in case you want to go follow. I know it's kind of cool. Lesson number 5. The right guidance will change your life. For the first 5 or 6 months of getting into boxing and then kickboxing and fighting in general, I had no coaching. And naturally, this caused a bunch of flaws and a bunch of bad habits in my technique and in my fight game. I mean, sure, the occasional person would come up and teach me something or give me advice, correct me on something, but it wasn't a proper form of mentorship. And so one day, I'm just hitting the bag with my terrible technique, probably 5 months in, 6 months in, and this new trainer comes and hits the bag beside me. And he's this relatively short guy, relatively, old. He's not young. And he hits well. I mean, he's fast, especially for his age. And he looks at me, and I'm like, shit, he probably thinks I'm terrible. And he's like, you want to train a bit? And I say, sure, why not? So he pulls out the trusty pads, and in the first 30 minutes of hitting pads with him, he's already shown me that I've made like 10 errors, and he's tried to correct every single one of them. And I realized how little I knew and how bad I was doing. And I started training with him more often, and now I still train with him to this day. And I promise you, I have learned more in 4 months training with him than I've learned in the whole 6 or 7 months with no guidance. And this goes the same in life. If you want to complete something, the best shortcut to complete that is to talk to people who've already completed it, to talk to people who already are where you want to be. Because nothing can substitute experience, but you can learn from the experience of others. So in any area of life that you're trying to excel at, find a mentor that is where you want to be and learn from him and be a student. Now, you're probably saying, oh, but I can't find any mentors. Mentors are everywhere. You can find mentors on the street. You can find mentors at your gym. You can find mentors on YouTube. There's a bunch of mentors that have done what you want to do. Find them. They're all over. And they will make your life so much easier. Lesson number 6, ego. This is the last lesson I'll talk about, and there's so many more, but this is a really big one that I want to hit home. I've had a rough journey with ego. I mean, I've gone from having an overinflated ego to really low self-esteem. It's been all over the place ever since I was young. And I never really talked about it. I never really tried to treat it until fighting exposed it. Because when you start fighting, you come in with the I see red myth. Oh, I've never learned how to fight, but if 3 people tried to jump me, I would do this and this and that I saw in the movies, and they'd all end up on the floor and knocked out. That's simply not true. You're not John Wick. You suck at fighting, and you probably get knocked out in a street fight. And I found that out very, very quick. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have extreme self-confidence, especially in fighting. I mean, look at the best fighters. Conor McGregor, super, super high ego. Jon Jones literally said that God made him to not lose. God designed him so that he couldn't lose. Even George St. Pierre, he was a humble guy, but he had a lot of ego. But the difference is they backed it up. Now, how do you find a sweet spot from having too much ego to the point that it's just stupid, and so little ego that it affects your performance? Think of a scale. So on this side, we have ego, and on this side, we have work or training. Now, if you have too much ego and too little work, this scale gets tipped and it's unbalanced. And what does this cause? This causes a fighter with overinflated ego that absolutely sucks. And this is a problem. This can get you knocked out. Now let's put the scale back. Let's say that a fighter does very hard training and is very good and has little ego. What do we have? A fighter that has a lot of potential but is super unconfident, so he doesn't show out when he fights. And this causes him to drop down to the level of his ego. He becomes worse than he actually could be. So how do we find the balance? I've realized that the sweet spot is having a diluted self-view of where you want to be and what you can achieve, but a realistic view of where you are at. For example, if you have the dream of becoming a boxing world champion, good for you. And you can achieve it completely. But you have to have a realistic view of where you're at right now. You have to ask yourself, where am I at right now? And what steps do I have to take to get to where I want to be? Because sure, I can achieve the world champion status, but I'm not there right now. So how much work do I have to put in to get to where I want to be? Ego is sort of like yin and yang. It's a really hard balance that you have to find, and you'll always struggle with knowing where to put yourself. Because when you win, you'll have super high ego, and when you lose, you'll have super low ego. And the masters in any area of life are the ones that learn how to control their ego. It's the same in life. Ego is very important. You can't walk around thinking you're a piece of garbage, because then no one will listen to you. Girls won't like you, guys won't talk to you, and no one will respect you. But at the same time, you can't walk around trying to stare everybody down, because you're going to run into problems. It's good to think you're the man, but you have to put the work behind it. Ego doesn't come from thinking you're something. It comes from knowing you're something. It comes from countless hours of putting in the work to achieve some skills that you know you have. And you don't have to show because you already have them. The perfect example is McGregor. He's been documented saying long before he was a champion that he would be a world champion and that he would have the yachts and the cars and the beautiful wife and beautiful family. And he was poor. His wife was working so she could afford his training. And he was living off of benefits, government benefits. A few years later, it looks like he predicted the future. That's why they call him Mystic Mac. Everything he said he was going to achieve, he achieved it. And back then, people would say, oh, he's just fucking delusional. He has too high of an ego. He's never going to get that far. But he did. Why? Because he had a deluded view of where he wanted to go, but he had a realistic view of where he was at. And he put in the work to get to where he wanted to be, and he achieved it. Fighting has taught me a lot of things, and it'll probably teach me a lot more. But I advise you, if you haven't already started, to learn how to fight. Absolutely. It'll be one of the best decisions you ever make, and I promise you, you won't regret it. So if you like self-improvement, if you like bettering yourself, if you like fighting, subscribe, because that's basically what I talk about on this channel. I'm trying to start a movement. And also, I don't know why people don't do this, but my Instagram is literally open for free. Like, if you ever want to talk to me or have a question or anything, I can just answer you personally. I'll leave it in my bio. But yeah, anyways, look. Boom! First lesson, never take your eyes off the opponent. Okay, I'll stop.